In AD 553, Constantinople, the heart of the Byzantine Empire, became more than merely the center of imperial politics. It became the stage for a decisive theological struggle that would shape the destiny of the Church. There, the Fifth Ecumenical Council, known as the Second Council of Constantinople, was convened. On the surface, the council aimed to heal division within the Church and reaffirm Orthodox faith. Yet beneath that purpose lay the determined will of Emperor Justinian to preserve the unity of the empire. Intertwined with the long-standing theological tensions surrounding the doctrine of Christ, Justinian did not separate ecclesiastical unity from imperial stability. To him, division in the faith threatened division in the empire itself. At that time, the Christian world still bore deep wounds from the Council of Chalcedon in 451. Chalcedon had clearly confessed that Christ is truly God and truly man. But that confession was not universally embraced. In various parts of the Eastern Church, many believed that Chalcedon emphasized Christ's humanity in such a way that it endangered the fullness of his divinity. On the other hand, the Orthodox Church resisted any interpretation that obscured the true humanity of Christ. This was not merely a dispute over theological wording. It touched the very heart of salvation. If Christ were not truly God, he could not truly save humanity if he were not truly man. He could not truly stand in humanity's place. In this context, the issue that became central to the council was the so-called three chapters. These concerned the writings and reputations of Theodore of Mopsuestia, Theodoret of Cyrus, and Ebes of Edessa. These figures had been accused of displaying tendencies toward Nestorianism in the way they articulated Christ's humanity, and groups in the East, with Miaphysite leanings, strongly opposed them. Justinian did not regard this matter as merely an evaluation of theologians from the past. He sought to use it as a political and ecclesiastical means of reconciliation. His purpose was clear by formally condemning the names and writings that opponents of Chalcedon found objectionable. He hoped to draw them back into fuller unity with the Church. Yet this effort was not merely a political gesture or an act of compromise. By condemning Theodore's person and writings, and by anathematizing specific writings of Theodoret and Ebes, the council reaffirmed the Orthodox conviction that in Christ, divinity and humanity are united without division in one person. This was not a rejection of Chalcedon, but rather an effort to clarify misunderstandings about Chalcedon, and to define its meaning more precisely. In other words, the council did not weaken the confession that Christ has two natures in one person. Rather, it sharpened the boundaries of that confession. In the process, certain radical teachings of Origen, including the doctrine of the pre-existence of souls, were also condemned, making the boundaries of Orthodox belief even clearer. The road to the council's decisions, however, was far from smooth. Most notably, the conflict with Pope Vigilius vividly illustrates the tensions surrounding the event. He viewed the emperor's heavy-handed involvement as a threat to the autonomy of the Church, and resisted attending the council, wavering in prolonged opposition. Eventually, under exile and intense pressure, he gave his approval to the council's decrees. This deeply unsettled the Western Church. The impression that theological judgment had been forced under imperial authority became another source of tension between East and West. Thus, the Second Council of Constantinople was not merely a theological debate, but a deeply complex event, in which imperial power and ecclesiastical authority collided. Nevertheless, the historical significance of the council is profound. Even if political motives and imperial ambitions played a substantial role, the Church emerged with a more refined articulation of Christological doctrine. Faith is not preserved by devotion alone in every generation. It must defend itself through careful theological reflection, in response to new challenges. At the same time, this council reveals how zeal for truth can become entangled with political power. Justinian's anguish reflected a sincere desire for unity in the faith, but that desire could not be separated from his concern for the order and stability of the empire. Ultimately, the Second Council of Constantinople reveals a paradox within the history of the Church. The effort to clarify truth can itself deepen division, and attempts to unify the Church can create new conflict. Yet despite these tensions, The Council clarified the Church's confession concerning Christ, and reaffirmed the foundational doctrine of two natures in one person. Upon that doctrinal pillar the Church still stands today. Therefore, this history cannot be read merely as an event of the distant past. It is a mirror reflecting both the Church's calling to contend for truth, and the shadow of human power that so often stands beside that struggle.